now is Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware. He is on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, good to see you this morning. What is your best case realistic scenario for these talks scheduled to begin tomorrow?
Well, John, thanks for that question. Best case is one thing, realistic is another. From the beginning of this war of choice, this chaotic war, it's been unclear exactly what President Trump's goals are and exactly why the United States has spent more than $50 billion over more than 40 days. Americans are seeing the price at the pump over $4 a gallon everywhere in the country. We're going to see inflation go up. The costs at the grocery store will be impacted. Fertilizer will impact the growing season for farmers around the world. And as you just said, the Strait of Hormuz is not open. And if the goal was regime change, we have Ayatollah 2.0 in place, his son, more angry, more radical, more likely to be aggressive. Yes, we've sunk a lot of their official navy. No, we haven't weakened their ability to shut the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, we've blown up a lot of ballistic missiles. No, we haven't ended their ability to keep launching them every day. Iran clearly still has control of its country. It has control of drones and small, fast boats and missiles that continue to strike and threaten American bases, American embassies, and our partners and allies throughout the region. So it is unclear to me what's been accomplished. Of course, I wish JD Vance success, and I hope that there will be a negotiation, but maybe it can achieve a real ceasefire first, and then hopefully an accounting for the highly enriched uranium that we still don't have transparency or accountability into, and an end to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
The United States has stopped striking Iran, inside Iran, Israel as well. Other than that, do you think it can be called a ceasefire, a 2-week ceasefire?
It really can't. If the core thing that Iran is doing, squeezing off world commerce through the Strait of Hormuz, is still happening, and frankly, if bombing is continuing throughout the region. So it's not a ceasefire yet, although the reduction in active hostilities is a positive thing. Look, President Trump's despicable Easter morning tweet threatening to erase an entire civilization is something that Americans need to think deeply about and that Republicans in Congress need to speak out about. We've lost the moral high ground of being a country that fights for regime change, that delivers on its promises to try and help the suffering people of other nations, and instead, under President Trump's leadership, become a country that seems only focused on extracting oil from other countries, whether it's Venezuela or Iran. He's weakened our alliance with NATO, most of which is angry at him for his mistreatment and disrespect of them, and it has encouraged and emboldened Iran, Russia, and China. This week, President Trump needs to decide whether to continue the sanctions relief that he's giving to both Russia and Iran that has dramatically increased how much they are profiting off this war. I hope and pray that he doesn't.
What are your expectations for Vice President JD Vance? We're, again, waiting for him to depart Joint Base Andrews any second now. What are your expectations for him as a negotiator?
Well, look, he has very limited foreign policy experience. I'm at least relieved that he is leading this, not a former real estate developer from Manhattan who has zero international experience, a buddy of President Trump's who's been leading much of the negotiations with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel and the Palestinians, represented mostly by Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. So the representatives of the Trump administration in the two other most critical wars, conflicts currently going on, have been people with real estate development experience. So my hope is that he will step up to this moment, that he'll be clear-eyed, and that he will narrow our goals rather than continuing to deliver to the American people a mess of conflicting and likely unachievable goals.
How much influence does the United States have over Israel right now? If the United States struck this deal, if the president has been asking the Israeli prime minister to back off in Lebanon, and it's hard to tell that that's happening?
Look, President Trump calling Netanyahu and saying you must reduce your campaign against Lebanon was a positive step, and the United States has significant leverage if President Trump would use it. Part of what anyone could have predicted about this war with Iran is that when President Trump said it was a war of regime change, that the Iranians would use every weapon and tool at their disposal, including making it a regional war, bringing in a dozen other countries that they have struck. And so, frankly, President Trump has a lot of work to do to reduce the efforts made by Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has also tried to regionalize this war.
Senator Chris Coons from Delaware, we appreciate you being with us this morning.